Hi, Dave here again. Kind of left the project over the winter. Kind of this winter in Wisconsin suck. So you gotta move. A lot of times you gotta move your operation into the basement, and family obligations and things. You don't get as much done as you hope to get. But I did rebuild this engine. It's a highly modified engine. There's a lot of machining that went on to lighten the gears. The shifting drum was machined down to lighten it. Whoever worked on this thing did some pretty cool stuff to it, actually. I'm getting ready to put the engine in, and first I gotta mask it up to so I don't scratch up the paint. And as far as paint goes on Bultacos, now it's it's a weird deal. I mean, as far as these frames are concerned, none of these frames are really that square. And you measure them up, and you kind of look at them, down the sight line, and these tubes don't line up. These tubes don't line up. And you just kind of take the bad with the good, I guess. And it is it was a racing frame, so the guy who owned it raced the crap out of this thing. And if you could see, the swing arm was highly modified. I mean, this wasn't original. The curve wasn't original. What they did was they cut open and slid a plate in there and then welded that plate to stiffen up the swing arm. And you can see where the weld on top and on this side, there. It was just an effort to really stiffen up the swing arm. And I don't know if that was a factory thing or this was a guy out of northern Illinois that raced this thing. I believe he raced for Aero PA, and this thing was just heavily modified. And it's kind of cool. It's still a neat piece. It's, I wouldn't, it's neat to restore it and put it back to where, where it'll be rideable again one day. So, if you notice, the frame was also modified. They bent the tubes here and pushed everything forward so the swing arm would be they put the bottom anchor for the shock forward and then laid the shock down a la Honda CR 250. And this was a kind of a neat upgrade or whatever. They were, the bike was old and they were chasing the technology of the day. And when you're going up against bikes that had, like Yamahas that had, monoshock, and some of the other companies that had a little bit better suspension, this was a way they could catch up to it. So, at any rate, I don't know if you guys want to watch. Yeah, it's going to take a while. I got to do a lot of jiggle wiggling, but I'll try to hit the high points on this assembly. I already got the headset in. I'll show you on the other frame. I got one more frame I'm putting back together. I'll show you how there's the a brutal way to do it, and then it requires a hammer and a chisel, or not a chisel, but a punch, and or flat washers and a big screw, and you just kind of tighten it down and push the races into the headset. So that's kind of there's it's there's those two ways of doing it, and it's amazing how many bicycle tools that I own I use on these motorcycles to assemble them. So hopefully when I'm back, the engine will be in here. If you know, we'll get to that later. Right now, let's get this thing together and see what happened. See how it looks. I mean, this is not the prettiest restoration, but it's gonna be more of I want to be able to ride it, take it to the track, and on vintage days, and then have some fun out there. I see a lot of guys like to do restorations, and I think they tend to almost over restore. I have a couple of original Bultacos in the garage with the original factory paint, and the amount of drips, and it's I'm sure Manuel was in a hurry to paint as many frames as he could paint and smoke a cigarette at the same time and throw some paint on the bike and get it out. I have one bike, it looks like they sat it down on some dirt and he sprayed right over the dirt, didn't care. So that, to me, if you have a restored bike, those are some of the things that are real, and it's not. I see so many Bultacos and other bikes that are so over restored. They're over restored, and it just then there's restoration mods, which I don't care. Those are cool. I don't mind those either. But represent it for what it is. But this is just basically tearing it down, cleaning everything, getting it down to its basic roots, putting it back together so it looks presentable, something you wouldn't mind seeing, going to the track with. People just tend to think, they just look at this thing and these older bikes and go, wow, look at the technology, and compared to today, and it's not gonna be the same. So, all right, well, we'll see what happens.